Hey, Mary Elizabeth.
Yes, ma'am.
I think Lizzie called in on her phone. Do you see a phone line?
Let me take a look.
She can hear the meeting. I just don't know if she can unmute and talk yet.
It might happen after I officially start the meeting. We're still in practice session. I'll actually start recording and see if I'll officially start the meeting and then we'll see if she can comment then.
Okay, I think that's it. I think that will help.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Testing, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. I'm actually renaming you right now.
Okay, awesome. If it's okay, I'll be logged in on both. That way I can use the webcam for my computer and then my cell phone for audio.
Yeah, it's sounding pretty good and we can see you, so far so good.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Testing.
I'll call to order the 427th Regular Planning Commission meeting. Could you please take roll call?
Commission Member Ivy,
Present.
Commission Member Tan,
Present.
Commission Member Santana,
Present.
Commission Member Valerio, all right, we see you there. Commission Member Peters,
Present.
Commission Member Stepper,
Here.
and Commission Member Ricewig.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Do we have anyone present online for public comment? Okay, I see we don't have public in the room. Are there any changes to the agenda by staff? Okay, any comments or questions or requests for removal on anything in the consent agenda? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Is yours picking up?
Commissioner Ricewig seconds.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. We're on to the regular agenda, and our first item is the comprehensive plan periodic update workshop. Oh, they're in the consent agenda, so we approved them together.
Thank you, Commissioner Peters. So yeah, we are going to do a little workshop on our comprehensive plan update. We have a number of things we've accomplished since we last met, and we have Angie Singleton and Elizabeth Smith online, our consulting team, and they're going to kind of take us through this process. And with that, I will turn it over to, am I turning it over to Angela first or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, if we'll start with the PowerPoint, Mary Elizabeth, and we can get going from there. Yeah. Sweet. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so hello everyone. I don't know if I've met you all, but yeah, I'm Angela Singleton. I am with the Langdon Group, which is a subsidiary of JUB Engineers. I am a public involvement specialist, and I've been doing the public involvement for this project. And I'll toss it over to Elizabeth. Do you want to introduce yourself too?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Smith, also out of our Kennewick office. I am the lead planner and the project manager for the comp plan update effort. So Angela and I have been working very closely on everything that's been completed so far. So we're excited to give you an update.
Yep. All right, next slide. Okay, great. So yeah, like Lou said, we're here to give you an update. I'm going to provide a summary of our recent public involvement activities and the feedback that we've received so far. And then Liz is going to run us through an activity to gather feedback on the existing comprehensive goals, and then how we might refine, update, and expand those to better fit future planning efforts. So we'll get started with our public involvement summary, go into the planning workshop, and then we'll provide a next steps overview as well. Next slide. Okay, so just to orient you to where we are in the project so far, this summer on the public involvement side, we conducted stakeholder interviews with key community members, and we established a comment database to collect public feedback as well. And then on the planning side, we collected and reviewed our existing planning documents, maps, and data. And then this fall, we moved into our data collection and refining findings section, and we'll be doing that until early spring. In between all of that is also several public involvement touch points, which I will cover in the coming slides. And then we'll move into our plan development this spring and into early summer. And then plan is presented to Planning Commission and Council this fall 2026. All right, next slide. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys an overview of the public involvement, and we will start, next slide, with our strategy. So our strategy here is to identify and understand the needs and perspectives of key stakeholders and the general community to inform the planning process, which is why we do a lot of our work at the beginning of the project. And then that helps us produce recommendations that are appropriate for the area and represents community interests and values. So next slide. All right, there's a lot on this slide. I'm going to go over more of this in the coming slides. So this is kind of an overview here. Like I said, I did these situational assessments and key interviews this summer, as well as establishing a point of contact as our project team and a place to keep all of our incoming public comments and feedback. We then had our first technical advisory group meeting this September. And then from that meeting, we provided the TAG, as we call them, with a project baseline and understanding of their responsibility and what we would need from them and the information we'll provide in the upcoming year. And then from that, we were able to gather some really good information from the TAG on how to develop messaging and public informational materials. That included things like our public website, flyer, marketing for our survey that just closed. So they were a big help there. And then from that, we opened our public survey at the end of September and just closed it this November. In between that survey window, we had an open house. You may have seen the amazing stack of pizza that was in the lobby area. We had a great turnout there, and I'll give another overview of that event specifically. But that open house was a great opportunity for the public to come and learn about the project and how they could continue to interact throughout the project timeline. And so tonight we're here kind of presenting on everything before this square here. So moving forward, we'll have another technical advisory meeting this winter. And the goal of that would be to go over all of our public involvement findings and feedbacks thus far, share that with the TAG so that they can use that to consider as we dive a little bit deeper into our elements and chapters of our comp plan. And then from there, the feedback we get, and we'll work with city staff as well on identifying the next public event, whether that be another open house or us attending another community event to promote the project and our progress so far and share where we're at and get feedback once again from the community. And then we will take that back to the TAG and have another technical advisory meeting in the spring. And the goal of that is to kind of, wrap things up, put a bow on them, provide last minute feedback and conversation. We'll have a pretty good draft by then. So we'll just be looking at small details by that point before we wrap the draft up and send that back to Planning Commission and City Council for approval. All right, next slide. Okay, so the situational assessments and the key interviews, just wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the things that I've heard. So these kind of bullets here on the right are the topics that I identified and put into buckets to process a little bit easier. So the things that I heard about community development and community values mainly were about a lack of affordable housing and available housing, and how folks would like to see more housing density instead of sprawl, and also keeping those commercial areas where they are and not mixing them into housing developments or near schools, because it's really important for folks that we maintain that small town feel while offering critical services, and then maintaining that historic element as well. And then as far as infrastructure goes, I heard a lot about increasing the walkability and sidewalk standards, as well as alternate transportation options, which included safe routes to school and alternative modes of transportation for school was really important for people. And then also, as the city continues to grow, maintaining that beautification aspect. And people talked a lot about having trees around and shade and green spaces. That made people, that's what they associated when they think of College Place. And then also upkeeping support and access for affordable high-speed internet to support economic development, the education system, and healthcare. That was also very important. And then tourism was kind of an interesting topic because there's a little bit of a mixed opinion here on tourism. Folks identified there wasn't much of a restaurant or nightlife scene, but there's potential to attract more food, arts, and culture businesses, and that would be something that folks were in support of, as well as supporting general tourism growth while balancing the needs of local residents. They didn't want to be overran by the tourist economy. And then as far as public safety goes, I heard a lot around how College Place is safe and quiet and quote, a really nice place to raise a family. So that was really nice to hear. Some folks, I think that the public safety department and building are big enough to support the current and growing population of College Place and would like to see resources spent on other city resources in the future. And as far as community engagement goes, we heard a lot about how people attend city-sponsored events. They're well-known and highly attended, so we will keep our eye on that for future opportunities as well. Social media was brought up a lot. People check the city social media frequently. And then some folks shared that mailers and newspaper are still relevant, and we should make sure that we're sending out mailers as well. Yeah, so that is the majority of the themes that I heard during my interviews, and we use that to help inform our marketing strategy as well. Next slide, Mary Elizabeth. Okay, and so then our technical advisory group here, just an overview on kind of who they are and what they do. We selected them with help from city staff because of their perspectives, local and professional knowledge in the city, because we will be asking them to provide draft or to provide comments on our draft materials and support us in identifying community events or groups within the community that we could better outreach to. And a large part of their role too is serving as a community liaison, and so providing that information to their networks, sharing information about the project, the surveys that are open, or any kind of events that we're hosting has been really helpful. And so they're responsible for helping us spread the word there. We had our first meeting in September, and then we'll have our next meeting here early this winter, like I said, to review those findings, both public involvement and planning. And then we'll do another review later this spring as well. And the tag has there's a member tonight. Angie Peters is on the tag, and we have council member on the tag, and we have school boards represented, and many other folks as well are on the tag. So we try to take holistic view of the city as well as our technical background. All right, next slide. Okay, so our public survey, we had a great turnout here. We had 76 responses on our public survey. That survey was available in English and Spanish. It was open from September 25th to November 1st. And we promoted that survey in multiple different ways. So some of the graphics here, you'll see this kind of square graphic here was a coaster that we designed and was distributed to local businesses with a QR code. We went to the farmers market multiple times to promote the project in the survey as well. And then we had a project flyer here that's in the bottom right corner, and we were able to get that hung up around the city and key touch points. And then we had several social media blasts in English and Spanish, so the top right corner there, and another one on the bottom left. And then I just wanted to share screenshot from our website. When we were promoting the survey, we had a big yellow banner. So when people went to the website, they could see the button for it and get to it pretty easily. The survey took between 5 and 10 minutes is from what I saw. And we got some really great responses, which I will cover in the coming slides. Sweet, okay. So I pulled out some of the key responses that we got. So for what I thought was good to show here was our housing types, because that was a big thing that I heard at interviews, and another thing we heard at the open house, and then also at community events. So the most desired housing type that we heard from the survey was single family homes, and that's that black bar on the right there. And that includes duplexes and manufactured homes. And then the next desired housing type was the multifamily dwellings, like apartments, condos, and townhomes. And then a least needed housing type was manufactured home parks, but we also had ADUs and senior housing, as well as mixed use housing, like apartments above shops and things like that, where they settled in the middle there. And then words that people would use to describe College Place, the top 3 words were affordable, safe, and family friendly. And that aligns a lot with what I heard early on. Interestingly enough, the least used words to describe College Place would be local, agricultural, historic, and convenient. And people were able to rank these words by how they associated with the future of College Place as well. So we had several other words like excellent schools, well-maintained, clean, quality parks, culturally diverse, welcoming, quiet and peaceful, strong economy, growing, small town, healthy, responsive government, and vibrant were all of the choices for this question. All right, next slide. Okay, and so then for economic development, trying to balance that need for business and what type. Thought it was interesting to learn the types of businesses that community members were interested in seeing more of in the future. So restaurants and cafes were the top type of business, followed by entertainment or recreation, just like movie theaters and arcades and other entertainment places. And hotels and motels were the least desired business type to see in future College Place. And then as far as the size of the businesses, most folks wanted to see a mix of both local and regional businesses, with a small percent wanting to see regional or national chains only. I did hear some of that in my interviews. Costco and Trader Joe's are definitely mentioned a couple of times. And there was a good portion of folks that would like to see locally owned only businesses in the future. But a good mix wanted to see both. Next slide. Okay, so this graph here on the left is showing support for the 3 categories of managing operational cost, city buildings and facilities, and city staffing. So the dark blue and the light blue colors are showing very supportive and somewhat supportive, and then the gray shows no opinion. So if think of it that way, majority of all 3 of those categories were supported in some way, and not supportive or somewhat supportive was not very high for either category, although city buildings and facilities had the highest not support for, but overall every category had good support for improvements in the city. And then desired community services, the highest desired community service with youth and family services and programs, as well as children's services, which aligns a lot with what I was hearing about, why people value living in College Place. And public transportation and mobility services and services for people with disabilities were some of the least desired community services when compared to youth and family. Is quite a big difference there, but we had a good chunk of support for improving health services and access to specialists, recreation program, and education and lifelong learning programs as well. Next slide. So in conclusion, we had a couple of open-ended questions as well, and a lot of the things that I heard was just more support for youth and family service programs, specifically sports fields too was brought up a lot, and sports and recreation activities for youth. Housing availability and affordability continued to be a talked about topic, with a mix of single and multiple family housing and general support for housing density. And then again, that balancing of business types and size and tourism. And then what we didn't hear in the main survey, but the open-ended questions, was this aspect of environmental stewardship, water preservation, curbside recycling, and generally just more public green space. And then there is support generally for reasonable upgrades to public facilities such as police, city hall, public facilities like libraries and whatnot. Just there's an emphasis on making sure that all of these upgrades are sizable for College Place and the expected growth. All right, next slide. Okay, so our open house here. Here are some pictures from the evening. The famous pizza stack, and all the staff members that were available that night. And the other picture, so we had a good turnout of community members as well. We had multiple activities that people could do. That picture on the bottom right is where we had our maps and markers for people to mark up, point, ask questions. It was a great touch point for people to say, I live here, and or I'm concerned about this. And then the photo in the middle here is our activity voting board, where we had all of the draft elements and examples of what would be included in those, and folks were able to write comments, ask questions, vote on what was most important to them or what they would like to see moving forward. So we got some great information from there. Some of the other boards that we had around the room were informational boards about the planning process and timeline, and some demographic information, population information, housing, and employment data. And then we also had a kids corner, which was utilized, and we got some cute pictures there where we asked kids to draw the future of College Place. Next slide. Sweet. Okay, so that wraps up my summary, and I'll hand it over to Lizzie to get started on the workshop.
Yeah, and before we get started on goals, I just wanted to touch base with Commission and make sure they don't have any questions on public involvement for myself or Angela that we can answer.
I do have one quick question before we move on. On the slide where you were talking about desired services, could you tell us how the question was phrased?
Let me pull it up. And Mary Elizabeth, would you mind going back to that slide 2? Yes, okay, perfect, thank you. Yeah, so the question specifically was, which community services would you most like to see added or improved in College Place? And that question was a select all that apply.
Thank you. That's helpful. When you were doing the summary, I wasn't sure if it was they were wanting improvement or they found the services undesirable.
I see. Okay.
I have a question. They just asked the question. Okay. When you were talking about the different groups that you were soliciting feedback from, are you all done with that feedback, or you're still getting a hold of them and talking to different people?
Yeah, okay, so we have a couple of different avenues, feedback. So we had the public survey that was general, advertised to the general public. And that feedback loop has closed, but we also will have another opportunity for the general public to provide feedback. That would be, again, general public feedback, and then the technical advisory group as well is providing feedback through that mechanism. But I want to make sure I answered your question. Were you asking about the specific groups we were reaching out to, or how that they were providing feedback?
Yeah, so I think I heard that you were working with like school boards and groups like that. And I just wanted to be sure that you're also including some of the bigger employers in the city. I'm thinking of Walla University, perhaps Home Depot, like the Walmart, people that represent those big employers.
Yeah, we have had some communication with Walla University. Definitely room for more there. As far as the large employers, we have not spoken with them yet, but that's a great suggestion. And there's room for that too. We have a couple more interview spots as well, so we can definitely fit those in.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question and maybe I missed it because you had a lot of info there, but how many people were represented on that poll? Like how many numbers, how many total? Just curious.
Oh, for the survey, we had 76 responses.
And those were selected by you, or how did you come up with
Oh, for
Who
the
they're gonna
survey
be?
or for the
Yeah.
advisory group?
Survey?
Yeah, that was a general public blast. So we just tried to market as many avenues as we could to reach people. So that was not hand selected at all. Definitely whoever felt inclined to scan a QR code and take the survey.
Thanks.
Can I ask you a follow-up question to that? Is that number, percentage-wise, is that what you see normally, or was that a low response or a low rate?
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good response. There's not really a goal that we have number wise, more as the quality of feedback that we received. So I feel like we got a very good mix of perspectives, age groups, and what people were thinking. So it wasn't a vacuum at all. We definitely got really good response on the open-ended too. So I definitely would say this was a good turnout for survey responses.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I can chime in really quick. We did quite a lot of haranguing at our farmers markets and stuff, handing out these flyers, trying to get as many responses as possible. And then at our open house, we did get about, 40-ish people came total. And there were also members from the city of Walla Walla and the county of Walla Walla there. And they shared that that turnout was actually pretty significant compared to what some of them got as well. So.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, I think we're ready for the workshop.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for all those questions, and thank you, Angela, for giving the update on the public involvement, everything that we've done so far. So taking all of that background information, I know that we had a lot to share with you, so try to remember those key points, but know that no decisions are going to be made tonight, but this is going to be kind of starting that conversation in a workshop style. I also wanted to note too that we are only reviewing the existing goals in the comp plan. Policies will be reviewed at a later date once these goals have been revised and updated a little bit. So looking at the purpose, so the comp plan goals really serve as that bridge between the city's vision and the actions that we take to achieve that vision. So helping translate that vision into something that's aspirational, into something clear, and have those like SMART goals that are actionable. And they're going to influence how resources and investments are allocated, making sure that the time and energy and funding we commit as the city all moves us towards that shared vision for the future. Slide, please. So since the 2018 comprehensive plan, the city has developed a new vision as part of the 2025-2035 strategic plan. So I've put that vision up here on the screen, and just highlighting welcoming, vibrant, diverse, safe, walkable. All of those things are what we want to achieve to have that flourishing downtown. And we heard a lot of those responses that that's what the community also wants to see through our survey. So those are good. It sounds like city staff and, council are aligned with the community. So that's good there. And as we go through these goals tonight, just keep in mind this vision. And really, we just want to make sure that this vision continues to reflect who College Place is today and where College Place is going in the future. Slide, please. So back in 2018.
Elizabeth, if I could just add one thing on that vision, sorry. The council spent a significant amount of time working on that vision. They had multiple workshops and meetings with the facilitator that was helping them with that process. So they really worked through it. So I think it's a valuable thing to keep in mind. Thank you.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, thanks, John. And you can definitely see, that work put into place and was important. And that's exactly what we heard in our survey. So it's kind of good to have those public involvement opportunities to really concrete what we've been hearing is still what we're hearing today. Slide, please. So as I was saying, the 2018 comp plan included 32 goals, which you should have gotten a PDF with those 32 goals broken down into themes. So in our tag 1 meeting, we discussed these goals a little bit, and one of those big items was there's a lot of goals for people to look at and to digest, and so there was an idea of developing some themes. We did not go into any more detail on what those themes would be, and so our internal team at JUB, we reviewed those goals and we kind of created those themes internally to share with you and get your feedback on those. So these 6 themes are shared here. And let me just check my notes real quick. Okay, perfect. So as we go through these, I'm going to touch on each theme, but just think about what areas or what goals still feel right for College Place and what goals might need to evolve or which we need to add or subtract as we look towards updating the current comprehensive plan. Slide, please. So the first theme that we have on the list is the community character and identity. So the purpose of these goals, as I was looking through these, is to protect, celebrate the small town charm, history, and livability that define College Place. So, you'll see that these goals range from preserving historic downtown to supporting public art and design that enhance community identity. And if you're able to pull up that PDF or look at it on your screen, I kind of want you to think about what small town character means for College Place today and how we balance that with maintaining that identity as the city continues to grow. And as we go through each of these themes, I'm going to kind of have like a reflection question for you. If you feel inclined to chime in, we can definitely start that conversation now, or there's a handful of questions at the end that we can kind of dig into. So I'll just let anyone chime in if they want on how we preserve that small town feel as we continue to grow. And if there's no comments, I can move on to the next.
Can we pause just for 1 second? Does everybody have the PDF open? I don't know why I'm getting so much feedback. Thank you. There's a PDF in Board Docs that has the goals grouped together that follows the PowerPoint presentation. So that would be helpful if you have that up on the screen, and then we'll follow the presentation that we have up on the big screens. And hopefully that makes sense for people at home. It might be a little harder if you're working off of a laptop screen to do both of these, but is everybody finding that document? We're good. Todd, you're good? Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay,
I
perfect.
think we're good. Thanks.
Okay, yep, thank you, John. Yeah, so we have that PDF here that, quickly shows each goal. I didn't put them on the slide just for text and, keeping things readable, but on that PDF, it does outline the entire goal there. So we can kind of look through each section at the end. But I didn't hear any comments or things to add on the community character and identity. So I'll move on to the next theme, which is governance and civic life. So this set of goals is about how we work together as a community. So government, partnership, engagement, fostering that collaboration with school districts like Walla Walla University and other local institutions, as well as ensuring residents have meaningful opportunities to participate in city decisions. So, these goals are going to touch on city services and access to community resources, like making sure that the way the city is operating reflects the values of the community. So there are, 6 goals here that we have listed on this slide. And, kind of that takeaway question, how can we better engage residents and institutions to shape our shared future? And I think, the first thing is the Langdon Group has helped us significantly with all of our public involvement and pushing out the survey and making sure that the material is in, English and Spanish. So I think we're doing great on those things, but, there's always room for improvement. So kind of think about that as we move through these themes. Any questions or comments on this theme?
Well, I can see like goal 12, research and place on the ballot and measure for like the library, like that's been accomplished. So I mean, I think there's some things that we can easily cross off the list. Is anything else popping to mind?
Commissioner Tan here. Can you clarify on goal number 6 when it mentioned College Place School District? Does that include CP High all the way down to elementary school?
I want to defer to John, but I believe yes, because those are all public schools, correct?
Yes, it's including both the private and public
Okay.
schools. Yes, from K through 12.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Moving on to the next slide, which is economic vitality and workforce. So this is about creating resiliency, diversification in the local economy that's going to benefit residents and support the city's long-term growth. So these goals are including things such as attracting new businesses, supporting existing ones, growing the workforce, leveraging tourism, although from what we heard from Angela on the survey, maybe not as important to some of the other aspects of the economy, and then maintaining that infrastructure that's going to support economic activity. So think of these, or this theme and these goals are things that are going to increase or drive additional opportunities for College Place, not just jobs, but also community pride and partnerships, things like that. And so that takeaway question is going to be focused on where are we focusing our economic energy? Is it new businesses, tourism, redevelopment, workforce development? And so, as we're going through these themes and there's these takeaway questions, we internally, JUB will also be reflecting on survey questions too and seeing what those responses are and help us guide, formulating those answers for these questions. Anything to add on economic vitality and workforce?
I'll share on this one, but I think it kind of is true for all of the categories that some of the goals within can probably be combined into a singular goal statement, which would help with just how many there are. I think it would be a little bit more digestible if there weren't 32, even though we put them into categories. But like to give an example within the economic vitality and workforce, I think that goals 20 and 21 could probably be combined into a single goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're moving ahead a little bit. There's some, things I wanted to throw out to the group, but one of that is, consolidating the number of goals that we have for each theme and even creating goal statements for each of these themes. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But I like where you're thinking. You're on the right track. If there are no additional questions, I'll move on to the next theme, which is the
Commissioner
housing and
Ivey.
neighborhoods.
If I may. I think that the economic vitality question is pretty important. It may not be maybe forefront of people's minds, but the question of affordability of housing being, I think, number one in some of the surveys, and that makes sense. But I think there's another side to that concern, and that is putting more, how do we say this? Economic vitality makes people afford more things too. So bringing money into the area, tourism not being the only approach. I appreciate the goal 22 giving us some motivation to stimulate diversify in that, whether that's around a rail line or other things for the city. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. The next theme is the housing and neighborhoods theme. So the housing goals are going to ensure that all residents have access to safe, affordable, and diverse housing options. Focusing on that variety, so different densities, different housing types, all while preserving the quality of our existing homes. We don't want new developments to take over the existing neighborhoods. We want to make sure that they are cohesive with each other. It's just, maintaining that livable neighborhood that, all the survey respondents said that they love about College Place. So we want to maintain that feel and make sure that everyone is served in the community as far as housing goes. There was only one goal that kind of fit into this housing theme, which I thought was kind of interesting because housing is usually a pretty important topic and usually rises to the top in discussion. So I think that there's, some room for expanding on goals for this theme. That takeaway question is, how are we meeting housing needs across all income levels, and how can we ensure that the updated comp plan supports this? The comment about diversifying the economy, that's, kind of ties into how we make sure that we're serving the community, and we can ensure that through updated goals in the comp plan.
Yeah, Commissioner Ivey again. And what I also noticed in the survey is that it was a fairly consistent focus on a family-friendly environment in College Place. And the interest in single-family homes, I think, aligns well with that, at least my understanding. So just having a place for kids, right, to run and do things. So that might not be available at all income levels, but I think that those are things worth maybe putting together as a single-family housing options affordably for family growth. Over.
Commissioner Santayana, along those same lines, I wonder, and this is just more of a philosophical question, is there a way to preserve housing for our youth that want to remain in the area but are already priced out because of whatever, just because of their age? When they graduate college or when they graduate vocational school, they won't make enough to afford housing at the rates that we have them right now. And housing has only continued to increase. I mean, it has increased exponentially over the last 15 years. Is there a way that the city could preserve a percentage of housing so that it could benefit our local youth that want to remain in the area? I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just, trying to
I was going to say, I'll let John.
John.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and definitely something to think about. And I think kind of been on all of our minds. And I'll let Michael or John chime in if they'd like. I don't know if there's not really an answer,
but there's lots of tools. Locally, there's Common Roots, which is a nonprofit. Blanking on the terminology. They are a nonprofit group that is attempting to provide housing options where they're a housing trust. They maintain ownership of the land, and then the people buy the homes, and they have like a long-term secured lease that's low interest for the land, and that there's stipulations on the way the loans are structured so that when they sell the homes, resell them, they're allowed to make a certain profit, but it's controlled, and the homes remain affordable through that mechanism, and then the ownership of the land to the land trust. So I believe they have a subdivision that they're working on getting built in Walla Walla, and they've looked at land in College Place. We'd love for them to be able to buy land in College Place and do a development.
I'm going to state the obvious here, but this is the number one question in the United States for pretty much anybody in the market for looking for a house. So it's not a simple answer, but a very heavily debated subject at hand, hence the 50-year mortgage they proposed last week.
And I'll remind you, it's been a while since we had our workshop on the land capacity analysis and our urban growth area applications and whatnot, but using Washington State Department of Commerce tool to evaluate our housing needs and goals. We have, per their guidance, more than enough single family homes based on income level. We need to be providing as much multifamily as possible.
Awesome. Thank you for, comments and the feedback, John, Michael. There are no other questions or things that you'd like to add. I'll move on to the next theme, which is infrastructure and services. So infrastructure, transportation, utilities, those are kind of the backbone of the city and how the city operates. And so we want to make sure that these goals guide how we maintain and improve those, utilities, the streets, the overall public services, and, kind of talking about growth. We want to make sure that, these goals are helping us plan for future growth and ensuring that those services are efficient and cost effective and sustainable. So kind of as you look at these goals, I want you to consider which systems might need the most attention as we continue to grow, and how those investments intersect with other priorities like economic development and housing. Housing touches on all of these themes, but just kind of think, where are we behind the most, or where do we need to improve the quickest to make sure that we can ensure sustainable growth? Questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next theme, which is sustainability and environment. So this is kind of a catch-all, it ties together land use, environmental, downtown development, and focusing on pedestrian-friendly, mixed-use downtown, ensuring parks and green spaces that are going to meet the community's needs. Also, making sure we're growing in a sustainable way and protecting air, water, land, while also supporting that vibrant growth. So there's a couple goals listed on your sheet there. And that takeaway question is, how do we balance the growth areas with sustainability and preserving the city's sense of place? That's always kind of a tricky question. How do we grow as a city, but also make sure it feels like a small town? That's a tricky question, so I don't expect any answers tonight, but definitely something that we want to keep in mind as we go through the comp plan update process. Any questions or comments on sustainability environment specifically? Hearing none, we can move on to the next slide. So here's really where I want your feedback. I want people to, chime in if you can. I don't expect us to necessarily discuss all 4 of these goals. I asked, plenty of questions through each theme, and we can go back to those if there's a question, you want to touch back on again. But definitely I want you to reflect on these after the meeting and as we continue to go through this process. And including what we've been hearing from the community and looking at all of these goals, which goals feel right and which, some might need to be revised and just tweaked a little bit or combined as other people have suggested, or removing them altogether, like John had mentioned about the library. So I guess we'll start with the first question. And so which of these 32 goals do you think best captures who we are, College Place, today?
Commissioner Ivey, so I'd point to goal number 8 as it aligns with, I think, some of the top survey responses about affordability of housing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and that's in the housing and neighborhood section on page 4, as you look through your PDF there.
I would agree. I think 8 is the one I would rank highest. I think a second one that encompasses a lot of the feedback with the spirit of the goal is promoting a livable community with a strong sense of history, goal 31.
And is that's goal 31 on page 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Any other comments or feedback on which goal you think represents the city today best?
I think goal 17. I think the city does well in the services that they provide, but we should continue to do well in that because it affects
Okay,
all the residents.
absolutely. Mary Elizabeth, that's on page 4 in the infrastructure and services section. So providing reliable services at the lowest reasonable cost, consistent with the city's environmental stewardship, equity, economic development, and protection of public health. Okay. So it sounds like there's a handful of goals that feel like really are, you know, a good representation of who College Place is today. What
I
goals
would
do you think?
add,
Oh,
I
go
would
ahead.
add goal 25 as a good one under sustainability and environment. Support and develop and redevelopment of a walkable College Avenue from Rose Street to 13th Street. We just have created, and Meg, you can elaborate on this, but we have the new downtown foundation, right?
Downtown College Place Association.
So I think that's pretty important, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm seeing nodding heads, so that's good.
I'm gonna go with goal number 7. The Walla Walla University is a very large group of people who gather for church, vespers, Friday night, Saturday, sporting events. You get a very, very large group, and I bet that attracts more people than anything in College Place does, probably combined.
Great.
Last calls on favorites?
Cool. Okay. Thank you for sharing those. So now looking at the other end of the spectrum, which goals do we feel are no longer achievable, relevant? Which have we completed? I know John made a comment, and if you can remember what goal it was, I'm looking through the list real quick here.
12 was the one that John brought up as already accomplished.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yep. We can write that down as we've achieved. That can be removed and replaced with something else, or just removed from the list. Are there any others that we feel are maybe outdated or that we've achieved, or maybe, you know, things have changed, goals have changed? Maybe that's not, you know, a goal that we want to pursue moving forward.
I'm a small town guy. I'm not really interested in the goal 26 personally, the big box stores and chain. I mean, within reason, restaurants, but it develops the community a little differently than I guess I would envision.
I can definitely see where
Yeah,
you're
now-
coming from on that one. Just from conversations I've had with people in the community, I think there's a very mixed sentiment on that particular one. So for that reason, I would advocate for keeping the goal because there's enough of a population saying those are the things that they do want.
Yeah, and that would be a good opportunity to look back at the survey results. And I believe it was 56%, don't quote me on that, but wanted a mix of local and regional stores. So, you know, something to think about as we revise these goals. It's always nice to look back to that data.
One thing I like about goal 26 is that it is focusing those big box stores on the Myra Road and the 125 corridor, which is already, you know, heavy. The big theme is big box through there. and it's got great access. Not to say that a private business wouldn't do, a small business wouldn't do well in there, but it is kind of focusing it into a corridor.
I kind of have a question about 27, grow and sustain a qualified workforce. I'm not quite sure how how the city would do that and how that fits into our goals.
Yeah, it's a little tricky with some of these. They aren't, super clear on what the next steps would be. And one of the suggestions our internal team is to develop policies that also accompany these goals, grow and sustain qualified workforce, and those policies would help support the next steps. So I think that would be a good opportunity or a reminder, as we're taking notes and things to reflect on, make sure that we are really creating actionable policies that accompany these goals.
Yeah, I feel like, if you can increase affordability, if you can provide services, that walkable stuff, that kind of allows our community to grow, which provides jobs, which then sustains a workforce. But yeah, the way it's written, I mean, are we asking our school system to grow qualified workforce or?
Yeah, it's hard to say what the intent was because I think it's probably leaning towards the educational system, but it could be wordsmithed or, grow and sustain a well-balanced workforce or something. I don't know.
Michael, maybe you can answer this question. Is the urban growth development stuff that we were going is going to all reflect what we want on growth or don't want? Do we like the growth at where it's at? If we don't, what do we do? Box stores are going to increase that, decrease it if we don't. I mean, it all kind of falls back on that percentage of growth for College Place in a healthy manner.
So with the UGAs, we don't have a lot of growth opportunities right now with our land capacity analysis. We've looked at it. We have not heard from the county yet, and we'll go over that later on this meeting. But we don't have a lot of acreage to work with. What we can do and discuss with you all in the future is looking internally at our zoning and land use maps as we currently exist, and we could propose changes there as well. So that's something to keep in mind.
I have a comment on the goal, infrastructure and service. How is that goal number 10 relevant to the community? I mean, how does it benefit the community? Or is that just a niche?
That's on page 4, Mary Elizabeth. John, do you want to take this one?
Support the continued operation of Martin Airfield as a unique and community asset. Is that the one you're talking about? 10,
Yes.
goal 10? So it's in our city limits. There's significant potential for development of that. The property owner has shared some plans for expanding the hangar space. It's a unique asset in that most cities don't have cities our size have airports. What can be done with that? There's opportunities for, flight schools. There's opportunities for other types of businesses there. There's been talk of drone manufacturing. I mean, this is might be far-fetched thoughts, but I believe there are other activities that can work around a small airfield. And in addition to that, we've done a light industrial study around the area for the availability of space for small buildings to be placed around the perimeter of it. There's capacity there. Obviously, we have to get infrastructure out to it. So I think that's the intent behind that. Back when this goal was developed, it was, when we first adopted this comprehensive plan, the initial intent was to pull that out of our UGA. It wasn't in the city limits yet. And then it changed ownership, and the new owner, at the very last minute, basically the 11th hour, notified the city that they wanted to stay in the urban growth area, and the city opted to keep it in. So we had to come back a couple of years later, I think the following year, actually, after we'd adopted the plan, and add some goals into the comp plan that supported keeping it in there. And then there just hasn't been a lot of activity regarding that, other than it's been annexed in. So, we've done some studies. We do keep in communication with the property owner. But yeah, I think there's a unique opportunity for something out there.
Is
Okay.
it necessary for it to be tied specifically to Martin Airfield, or could the goal simply be to support the continued operation of unique community assets?
Possibly. Sometimes the language, if it's specific enough, it may help us if we were applying for a grant or something to specifically mention Martin Airfield, potentially. Or, maybe we have a list in our comprehensive plan of community assets or something too that we've identified. That might be helpful, so we could broaden and identify all of our community assets.
I would be more in favor of that. I think it also could be a little bit of a hangover of just working in public transit, where like you go and you name it. This is the Kmart bus stop, for example, and then Kmart is gone, and now you have a ton of signage you have to go change.
To jump back really quick to that grow and sustain a qualified workforce, I dove into our existing comp plan, and under economic development policies, one under economic development policy number 7, the city and university should explore the feasibility of establishing a joint entrepreneurial center. Economic development policy 8, encourage partnerships that focus resources towards increasing the employment of all citizens, local job training, public-private sponsorship of entrepreneurial and vocational education programs, and then student internship programs with local businesses. There were some policies in there, but you have to evaluate our resources and our purview and what we can actually accomplish at the same time, I think.
Yeah, so we're interleaving a couple different conversations here. I think the 27 of the qualified workforce sounds interesting, but the way I look at it, it's probably lower priority than the housing issues. And if we needed to drop something, that'd be pretty high on my list of things to drop. Not sure what the consequences of that, but I think just relative to other conversations, I don't know if I need to make a motion on that, or is that, we're not in that kind of mode right now, we're just conversing. Okay, cool. And then so if we can come back to then number 10, right? We're flipping around here. Angie, I agree with you, creating that reference to an external list where proper nouns are identified and can be maintained more easily with, if there's like a rebranding of the airfield. Maybe that came to mind when you described your bus stop situation, but yeah, so I'm excited by the opportunity for Martin Airfield, and I'm glad that we're thinking about that, the proximity of that to the rail line, and what, some speculative thoughts come to mind. I'll just keep those to myself, but with technologies coming on the horizon, but I'm glad that we're thinking about that, and it's so I'd encourage us to keep that in the goals somehow, even if referenced to on another list.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Lots of good discussions, especially on goal 10. John, I appreciate you calling out that need for having, that specific asset called out in the goal for funding. There's an opportunity to say operation of Barton Airfield as, and other unique community assets that maybe are another list that we develop that can be updated as needed, which would open up more potential funding opportunities. Are there any other goals that no longer feel like they fit the vision of College Place that we haven't touched on yet?
I'm not necessarily advocating for like
Oh.
a specific one to be removed, but just noting that under community and character, we have, I believe, 4 goals related to the historic value. So that would be the category where I would most advocate for some, not condensation. The word escapes
Reduction.
me. Thank you.
Yeah. Condense, maybe that's the word you're thinking of.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, we'll make a note of that. And I agree. I think, the tag and both, this group, the Planning Commission, looked at those 32 goals and, kind of the resounding theme was there are a lot of goals. So we definitely want to look at refining and reducing repetitive goals if possible. So if there are no other goals that we want to call out that no longer fit or feel achievable or relevant, I kind of want to flip the script a little bit and think of what challenges that are emerging are not addressed in this list of goals. That can cover a wide variety of things, but I'd love to hear from this group if there's anything that just is blaring, like this is not covered, we need to make sure that we cover this in some aspect.
Commissioner Ivy. So I think that the goals are fairly broad and cover a lot of things. So things that come to mind would be like potential for additional convenience stores or vehicle chargers or whatever. And but a lot of that falls under infrastructure and things we've discussed already. I don't. I hesitate to add more to the list.
One of the challenges that I see that, and this isn't a new challenge, but with the economy, the way that it is, and it has been, if it continues to decline, that will be a sign for concern for employers being able to provide work. I know that budgets are being cut, everywhere, and so employers that used to have a bigger number of employees now have lower number of employees. So if there's a way that we can look ahead at that, and if a big employer ends up not being like what you were mentioning, if Walmart ends up not being here anymore, what do we do? How can we prepare for something like that?
Yeah, I think I'd look to John for a little bit just to confirm, but I guess that is a valid concern.
Yeah, that sounds like a resiliency to me. And I think we could certainly look to see if we have something that addresses resiliency, and I'm not seeing that from what I've seen tonight. That's a really good, that scenario you have mentioned is a fear of mine. Really, they provide so much revenue, that one particular store, to the city, that it would be major issue.
Yeah.
Along the same lines, I was thinking also with people being able to work from home a lot easier now than they used to, even 10 years ago. Is there a way that we can I don't know, capitalize on that? And so the more people we have here, the better our economy, because then they're spending, their income locally and stuff. But anyway.
Sort of piggybacking off of that comment, should we have any sort of goal related to broadband access?
Commissioner Ivy, I, I think that the infrastructure might be solved for us as it comes from a different upward direction.
And I wanted to note too that the goals that you see today are for the entire comprehensive plan. And as we are updating the comp plan, each element, there's that list of mandatory elements with the addition of some of the optional elements the city has opted into. There will be goals developed for those elements. So, broadband would fall under that capital facilities utilities element that had goals and policies related to that. And I don't have that list in front of me, so there quite possibly could be an existing policy related to broadband under that capital facilities and utilities element. I wanted to get this list in front of you because this is the first thing you see, the first list of goals when you open the comp plan. And I guess if there are no other comments or questions, I can kind of go into what I discussed earlier about condensing some of these. But any other challenges, things that we need to touch on?
I just have a quick comment based on the previous one is 17 and 23 kind of touch on that part of infrastructure. So I don't think it needs a specific call out.
Okay.
And Elizabeth, you worked on a parks plan for us. So I think 14 could either be removed or reworded.
Yes. Yeah, that parks plan has to be updated every 6 years for RCO funding. So that goal could be reworded to, meet that requirement.
Maintain or, yeah.
Yep, page 5. Yep, we got it. Perfect. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, these, 32 goals are the first list of goals that you see in the comp plan. And internally, we are, formulating that recommendation to condense these into goal statements. So each of these themes would, kind of get an accompanying statement that kind of embodies what the purpose of these goals are. They were kind of listed on that PowerPoint as the purpose of those themes. And then respecting all of the work and the effort that the city and, the past team has done with these goals, I would like to translate the goals where they fit in and put them into the elements. If there's the infrastructure goals, put those into the capital facilities and utilities element, and then rework those existing policies to fit those goals, or vice versa. So that's kind of the direction that we're moving. And, we're going to take these themes and some of the recommendations from this group and include them in our discussions with our TAG at our second TAG meeting. So any feedback you have now is great and appreciated and is going to help the TAG, make, future recommendations that we will then bring back to you for further, refinement and feedback. So there is one last question I have for the group. So how do these goals or trade-offs, or how do these goals guide trade-offs between preservation and progress? Kind of a hard, it's a tricky question. So I'd just like to hear, how does that make you feel? What do you think? What are those first things that come to mind?
Commissioner Ivy, I didn't hear any strong competition between different uses of land. Like the big box stuff was in one place and the houses were in another. It didn't seem like we had necessarily each thing had its place. So that part seems like it meshes okay from what I understand. And then the rest of the goals, I think they cover a lot. But the survey helps us, I think, to understand the community's feelings about affordability of housing relative to some of the other goals, I think.
Great, thank you. And do you feel like these themes, these goal themes, generally touch on all the aspects of College Place, or is there a theme that we're missing in this list of themes? You know, translating these into goal statements, similar like what we did for the Parks Plan. You know, we had those goal statements, and then we broke down the goals and policies for each, you know, section of the plan. So that's, you know, the format that we'll be moving toward for the comp plan update as well. But you know, those goal statements are going to be that kind of first list. Oh, you're right. Okay. Sorry about that.
They were like, what?
Yeah.
Personally, I thought that you guys did a good job breaking those 32 things down into thematic categories.
Great. Any other questions, comments, feedback? Not hearing any. So unless, do we have a final comment? I saw.
Yeah, I maybe
Yep.
wait almost to the last minute, but if it's not too late, what preservation, what are we preserving? We're preserving historic properties, we're preserving culture, what are we preserving? Small
Well, I
town.
think that's up to the city. Yeah, like the priorities. Are we preserving, you know, that single family feel, the
Oh.
single family dwelling feel, or I think it's up to interpretation. And I kind of left it open to kind of see what that initial gut feeling was from you guys, from the group. What are you worried about preserving? What are you worried about, you know, how progress might affect something that might need to be preserved?
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing, Commissioner Ivy, that like, what are we preserving? And it could be historical buildings, but it also could be some of our predominantly single family neighborhoods. Is it important to preserve those, or are we willing, do we want our comp plan to allow those neighborhoods to evolve into more dense neighborhoods? That's probably what we're, you know, being asked, in, you know, air quotes, to do from, you know, the state and their expectations on how we absorb our future growth. So are these goals and policies meeting that, or are there things that, you know, we need to keep in mind?
Along those lines, when we think about single family dwellings are preferred by families, by small families or, you know, bigger families. If we were to convert that because of state regulations or whatever, or incentives, and we wanted to have more like apartment buildings, or we need to make sure that we have ways for people to I don't know, get out there, like do their thing that they would do if they had a small, you know, when you have a house, you have to take care of it. And so there's certain activity, there's certain things that you do that you don't do with an apartment. The city doesn't have, right now, the city doesn't have a community pool. It doesn't have places for our youth to, I mean, they find the parks and things, but there isn't like a sports complex, there isn't you know, things like that. And so when you have more apartment buildings, you have more density of people, then you need more of those outlets for people to get out and, you know, not just be, I don't know, more cramped. And so if we are thinking of going that direction because of expectations from the state, then we also need to make sure that our town continues to have that feel of a small town and active and outdoorsy and, you know, all of those things that make this a special place.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just a catch-22 these days of, you know, when you look at our main street and if you're approaching commercial builders and tenants and whatnot, they're going to want that density to support them. But then we're saying we don't have the amenities to build the density, and you're gonna get into this loop. And at some point, you have to make a decision of where do we want to head? Where do we want to progress? And something has to give.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. There are no additional comments, questions. You don't need to pull it up, Mary Elizabeth, but it was just a timeline slide again that Angela shared earlier. But just to reiterate, we're going to continue reviewing these goals with this group, with the TAG, with the community. You know, we're going to take your feedback that we received today and refine these goals and kind of place them into the elements that, you know, makes the most sense. Kind of rework those goal statements and have those ready for the TAG to react to, and they'll provide, you know, recommendations for Planning Commission. So, you know, making sure we're looking at community input, the data, and any trends that we're seeing in those survey responses. And wanted to say thank you to the group. This is a really important first step, especially with the goals, and it's really going to help us bridge, you know, what we've heard from the public and making sure that we're echoing that in the updated comp plan and making sure the direction that we're going is where, you know, the community wants to go and what we want to see for the next 20 years. Again, thank you. You have a very important role in the comp plan update. So I appreciate your time and all of your feedback and your participation in tonight's workshop. So keep your inboxes open, look at the website, check social media. There'll be more updates coming from us or from, you know, staff. With that, I'll just leave it open to any other questions, comments, feedbacks. Yeah.
Anything else from the commissioners? Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Angela.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. You know how to get a hold of us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Yeah, I will let you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Fee update. Fee resolution update. Sorry.
All right. So as I don't think we've talked about it with you all yet, but we're going to move to a new permitting and licensing software. It's going to be much more user friendly for the public. We'll have a civic access portal where people can kind of apply, pay, track their building permit applications, their planning applications, et cetera, with the city. And as we went through that build out process, we were looking at our old fee schedule, comparing it to other municipalities, and just wanting to stay up to date and also just clean it up a lot, reorganize it a little bit. So we have a fee ordinance in front of you with what we believe is, I would call it pretty status quo. We aren't raising our prices significantly. We are making things sometimes a little bit more, maybe adjusting for our time and energy. But for the most part, it's mostly just organization and getting it ready to go into this new digital system. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as you look through that red line. But otherwise, we would just ask for a motion, either recommending approval or not to City Council, as they will make the final decision on this.
I have a question. So this is so you're recommending software for building. So like contractors are the ones that are paying the fee, or like citizens, residents that are building. So it's not like a fee that for the population, the entire population of College Place. It's only those that are building that are, and it's for them to have access online and to be able to track their process online.
So we're implementing this new software that's happening. While we were doing that implementation build out process, we looked at our fees, compared them to other municipalities, the county, the city of Walla Walla, even Tri-Cities. Just making sure our fees are up to date. We're capturing our time and energy and effort. And there is also a technology fee because this is a pretty expensive platform. So every application will also have a small fee to kind of keep that system up to date. We have licenses, user licenses and whatnot for all of our staff, maintain the system and whatnot.
Do you know if the fees are significantly higher or are they like minimal?
We tried to keep it pretty minimal. If you look at the charges, one moved from $500 to $600. Most of them stayed pretty even. Here's one that even dropped in price.
When we do these, this is the first time we brought a fee resolution to a planning commission, but we felt that it was relevant and the timing was right. When we do these evaluate, so this whole fee resolution covers all fees for the city. The only ones that are being changed are related to community development. But we always try to keep our fees just below what our neighboring jurisdictions are typically, so we're more competitive. Michael mentioned the 3% technology fee. We had our finance department look at the cost of the software and what our revenue has been in the last 5 years and what we're projecting out the cost to be to recover the implementation of the software. And so at 3%, I want to say it was like 10 year. So it's a fraction of what the actual software cost us, but it's something to help cover the annual expenses. So that's probably the most significant change. It is the most significant change is that 3%.
The county and the city of Walla Walla also have similar systems and a similar fee as well.
Does that system allow people to pay online? And
Yes.
do they, is the person paying responsible for the service fee?
The city currently is taking on the expense for the credit card transaction fee. Walla Walla and the county actually are passing that on to the customers. That's something that I'm guessing will probably happen right now between our utility and permits that are paid right now. It's somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a year that the taxpayers are covering through that credit card transaction fee, which is a significant amount of money. And
My recommendation would be to pass it on to the individual paying for that and not have the taxpayers.
and I think that will be something that's happening. Council, is in budget cycle right now, and they're looking at, taking their 1% property tax increase. I think they're looking at doing 3 or 4%. So there's already going to be some additional taxes that are going to be increased this next year. So this is one of those things that I think that they'll probably put a punt for next year or maybe the year after. This next year it'll be telling to see how much revenue, how many transactions are being paid through credit cards additional with this new system. Some of the changes also are reflected based off of workflow. Our current program doesn't help the city with workflow, and so we realized that we should actually have a permit for this, or we should be charging an inspection fee for this. We hadn't been in the past, so there's some little things like that, but it's relatively insignificant in the whole scheme of things.
Commissioner Heavies, I'm want to congratulate you for awards. I'm glad that you're looking at these kind of systems, although they may add a little bit of cost. I think that it's a leverage point. We can get the permits flowing, higher quality output, and get this city growing and moving plus friction. I think that will benefit us. And I don't know, what kind of payoff that is or whatever, but I have no objection, and in fact, I was going to recommend, how do I say this? I move to recommend that the city approve the proposed fee ordinance as presented.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? I have one more question before calling for a vote. It's in section 4, you've got different fees related to reviews. Are those also subject to a technology fee? Because I didn't think I saw one.
Every fee except for like the state fees is subject to the 3%.
Okay, it seemed like in every other category, we did call that out within the category. And I don't see it anywhere in section 4. I don't think that's a reason to not move. I think that's a correction that could be made if it is in fact missing, and I'm not just overlooking it.
Yeah, the intent is that there would be that charge, yes.
Okay. Any other comment or question? Okay, all those in favor of forwarding this to the city council with a recommendation for approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Passes unanimously. I think we are into staff reports.
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan amendment application that was turned in on July 1st, and unfortunately we have had pretty much zero communication from the county on where we're at in that process. I wouldn't say it was a complaint. I did send an email to the county commissioner's clerk outlining my concerns, and did hear a response back from 2 of the commissioners individually, and they are working towards getting the schedule ironed out. So hopefully we will know more in this coming month. There has been a significant staffing change at community development. Their director was released. And so they're down a person. So I don't think that's going to help anything in the short term, but in the long term, hopefully things will get back on track. And so we're hopeful that in January or February, their planning commission will have a workshop on our application, and we will appraise you of the information we have when we have it, and let you know what the schedule is going to be. So
Thank you. Any questions on that from the commissioners? Okay. Tyler Tech Enterprise, is that the software we were just talking about?
Yep. So just to piggyback on that last conversation, our go live date is December 8th. We will be doing some public outreach regarding that go live, hopefully reaching out to some of our contractors and whatnot and letting them know. If you want a little bit of information, you can go to the link that was provided regarding that Tyler Tech Enterprise Permitting and Licensing Software. For about 2 solid weeks at the beginning of December, we're going to be heavy into it. They're going to send a end user trainer out to walk all of our staff through the system for a week, and then they will have a support staff on site for the go live week, December 8th. And then we get about a month of support before they turn the system completely over to us. So we're hoping to iron out as many kinks as we can in this last little bit of time before go live. But
Michael has been instrumental in the process of this. If it doesn't go well, I will take all the blame as the department head. But I don't know if you were aware of this, but one of the reasons why Michael works for the city is that we were awarded a a grant from Commerce to help streamline our permitting process. And so the first half of his employment here was covered through that grant. So that's one of his primary goals right now, is getting this implemented. And he's done a great job. I couldn't have done it without him. In fact, I tried to do it without him and it was a miserable fail. We started over. And so, yeah, he's been doing a great job. He's been working closely with all the, the building inspectors and public works inspectors and reviewers, and our IT department. So we are optimistic. It is the same company that Walla Walla just rolled out this summer, their permitting system. There are differences in that their workflows are different than ours and whatnot, but from the customer side, we're hoping that it'll be a fairly similar experience, especially for the contractors out there. You'll still have to have your own account with College Place and Walla Walla. There'll be separate accounts, but still we're hoping that the processes are going to be very similar. And then it also interties in with our finance side. It's the same company, so that'll be a streamlined effort from the staffing side. Finance department was heavily influential in selection of this because of that feature. So
Thank you, Michael, and to you both for helping the city move forward. Can you tell me so there's the implementation for the city to use it. Will your customers, so contractors or I don't know, residents, whomever needs to use it, will they also have some kind of training? Will they have instructions so that it's easier for them? I'm thinking of the ones that are not very, techie, that have been doing, construction for years, but have never had to deal with the technology part of it.
So we will retain just our regular old applications and whatnot, and accept them in person on paper or via email if necessary, and we can scan them into the system and put them in manually. So we will retain those services for sure. While we would love everybody to apply online, it just does not happen. In the meantime, we will try to produce some PDF walkthroughs of the system to try to familiarize everybody. I know Walla Walla has like 18 different little PDF walkthroughs on different parts of the system, which I believe they hijacked from another city, which we might hijack from them. So, yeah.
Smart, not
we will make sure that we change all the headings. Correct?
Does Tyler Technologies offer any training videos, or are they all geared towards back-end system users if they have them?
I would have to ask that. I would assume the civic access side is the most uniform, probably, because every municipality has to build their private facing side from the ground up, which is
a lot.
Yeah.
And mind blowing, because there's a lot of jurisdictions in Washington state that we're not the first ones to implement Tyler. There's a number of them on the west side, and we're like, we all do it the same way. It's Washington state. It's all RCWs and building codes, and they're like, no, you have to build it your way. And we're like, you don't understand. We don't have a way. We came from a system that didn't have workflow, so help us. And yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's been a lift.
Can I make a comment of, I just don't feel like 76 people are representing this accurately in that. I know they said that's a good representation. Is there a way we can get this in the mayor's notes or something? Everybody gets a bill. They're gonna see it a little more visually on the your bill for each month, your mayor's comments, I guess that goes out. And maybe your Christmas tree lighting.
I mean
yeah, sorry.
We really hammered that. And it was a little bit demoralizing to like only get that many, but in today's day and age, I just don't think.
We had social media posts, push out on we had it on our webpage. I hit every business in town and where I could hang up flyers with the QR code on it, I did that. North College Avenue, South College Avenue. The coaster idea was our idea, so we had those at Rogers Bakery and coffee shops and down at Hop Thief and Happy Wanderer.
Around all the buses.
Sunbridge.
Have we reached out?
Stops, yes, thank you, Angie. So,
Yeah, sure. No, I just wondered if I was the only one thinking that way, but the other thought that comes to mind is the number one concern is housing. So the number one reach out should be to builders. I happen to know a fair bit. Have we reached out to them individually for their comments since they're building?
Individually, no.
Yep.
I mean, I gave a presentation to every board and commission that I could. And I've sent emails to all of our tag members, all of you, all of the contacts that I possibly can with the survey to distribute if they could push it further than I can. And that's all we got.
I shared the same sentiments that Brandon shared. And I wonder if we could do more in terms of reaching people. What he was saying about the mayor used to send a newsletter with the water bill. I haven't seen that. I don't know that she does. I don't know if she sends a message. I don't know. But I do see the bill, but that's all I see. Because I used to see both and now I only see the one. So
there is a newsletter and as far as I'm aware, she still does her monthly little.
and so but I wonder if reaching out to the schools and have them, they have parent teacher conference.
Yeah,
They have-
I worked
Okay.
with Jim and I think he put it out within their system, and we worked with Walla Walla U.
Yeah,
And
we actually asked, Walla U actually weighed in on the survey questions itself because we asked them to push it out to their students and they wanted to make sure that the questions were appropriate. And so we might have missed a rock or two, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, you guys did good.
Don't get offended or just.
No.
No, we're not. No, I'm glad you're bringing it up because I want everyone to know that we did really try hard and it is, that's less than 1% of our population.
Right, and maybe it's a longer window.
And
or something, but these are very big decisions being made for the entirety of College Place. And so the number and the window to, it's just what comes across.
I think the interesting thing what I would say is that the responses that we got in the survey really do seem to echo what I hear personally when community members find out who I am and they're like, oh, I really love what's going on in College Place. Like you guys got it going on. Like I wish Walla Walla would do this. The being in that park, constantly, because that project's not done yet. And that's my project. I'm in there, not so much right now, but every time I was in that park, somebody would come up to me and say how wonderful it is. I love the community events and we need more affordable housing. So, and every single one of them is mostly saying we want houses, not apartments, but then when we do talk about that and when I get in conversations with people, they understand like, well, yeah, we have to have some apartment complexes too, but it's not all or one,
I'll just say that I saw the opportunity on more than one location and I did not participate. And giving me more time would not have made me participate. So
I don't want to make it sound like I'm discrediting this conversation. I think it's really important, but I also think we should acknowledge that people are very surveyed out. And we have 3 different jurisdictions hitting up the local community for the same survey. Like technically the questions will be different. They're 4 different people, but as a just general consumer, it's the same survey. I already did that. Why would I do it again?
Which are the other jurisdictions?
The city of Walla Walla and the Walla Walla County.
And they have results for their surveys?
I don't have the answer to that, but I do know that they're all in the same phase of update and doing their outreach right now.
They would have presented to their planning commissions.
Yeah, and sorry, they're getting similar results. Walla is probably getting a little bit higher number on their surveys, but and they're probably doing a little better on their turnout for like their open houses, but the county, apparently their open house was 10 people. Yeah.
So I was the director of marketing for Brookdale. I know. Don't worry about that, but the best results we had were giving away a free turkey. A bazillion people show up from all across. Finding the right mechanism to get the people to show up is the key.
May I make a comment? Yeah. May I make comment on that survey? My observation is that the target audience might be different, okay, because we are surveying the people, the resident here, but what the bigger needs out there, as Commissioner Stepper was mentioning, a lot of the activity in College Place revolve around the big event of the university. Okay, so whether it's alumni weekend, whether it's graduation weekend, those are the time when the real need is accommodation. There is really nothing to accommodate the influx of visitor, whether it's parents, whether it's alumni coming back. People have to stay all the way to Pendleton, for example, okay, just to find a place to stay. So the survey is whether it's from the perspective of the resident who does not want, hotel or this, a place that can accommodate people versus the actual need of, the crowd that come to this place. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Kang. We actually did a study on whether or not there was a need for hotel motels in College Place, and there is. That doesn't necessarily mean the community wants it, but that's an interesting, the results on, I was surprised to see that because I don't hear that when I talk to people. People are like, we need a hotel. Like I don't know, when people come to town, like that's staying Walla or my basement, and that, so I was surprised to see that number so low.
And we have commercially zoned property that if a hotel showed up and built to the standards that they needed to, we wouldn't stop them by any means. We would welcome them. But it's a matter of getting people that, getting a client that wants to come here and develop.
Any other questions about Tyler Technologies?
We do have a couple of other business items if that aren't on there, but one, I just wanted to give a quick update on how many single family units we built this year. We permitted 16. so far, and I think we have a couple more, 3 more that are approved and they just haven't paid for them, so they don't count yet, but so that's up from 2 of last year, so that's yay for us, but was hoping that we would have all of the villages of Garrison Creek, that first phase or phase 12 built out or close to it, but it's been a little slower with interest rates where they're at, and so but they're selling slowly, and they're still, planning on putting the infrastructure in. As far as I know, that's what they've communicated to me for the next phase. So getting that going next year. So
Do you know what the price range is for that community?
they're in the 600 to 700,000, 650, I think. Kind of steep, but that fills a need there's a market for that. It alleviates some of the pressure off of the other affordable units in the area, so. Trickle down home. Yes. And then the other thing we wanted to talk about is the meeting start time. Would the commission be in favor of an earlier start time? Maybe 5:30 or 6. Doesn't take long to.
Please.
Yes.
Is there a consensus with the group on a time that would be better?
I'm in favor of 6.
Same. I would be more in favor of 6 than 5:30.
So this would be something we would need a motion on to change.
Yes.
Okay. Was that a motion, the person who said 6?
Yes.
Commissioner Ivy makes a motion that we change the start time of the planning commission meetings to 6 p.m.
Commissioner Ricewick seconds.
It's been first and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of adjusting the schedule for future meetings to start at 6 p.m. signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
Yay, I've been wanting to do that for 21 years.
Hey, Angie, did we vote on the recommendation to the council for the fee schedule?
We did.
We did. Okay, thank you.
Can I make one comment as a builder that the fees are a direct reflection on the cost of the house? And if we want to build with the city, and I was happy to build with the city, but that relationship is key.
Anything else? I do have one really important question before we close the meeting. Will there be a baby shower for your baby Tyler to be born on December 8th? Oh, I'm disappointed. No, I'm talking about the technology.
I followed.
Okay, do we have to do a formal motion or can we just conclude?
We need a motion.
Okay. Would anyone like to move to conclude the meeting?
Yes, motion.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of concluding the meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Your mic does not work. Oh, our next meeting is scheduled for December 16th now to start at 6 p.m.